If you're a seasoned global traveler, chances are you've heard of Turkish Airlines. The route network is jam-packed with 296 international destinations from Atlanta to Accra to Amman, Jordan. Türkiye is Europe's second largest country and an excellent tourist destination. But even if you're not going to Türkiye, the country's flag carrier will happily fly you through their massive Istanbul hub, strategically located within 5 hours flight time of 50% of the world's population. Turkish Airlines carried just about 83 million passengers on its 430 planes in 2023 and generated 17 billion in passenger revenue, just a tad larger than its European counterpart Lufthansa. Their profitability is a subject we've covered on this channel because it's somewhat mind-blowing. At 13% operating margins, they are more than twice as profitable as the Germans and the most profitable network carrier in Europe. Turkish has already reached a level of success many airlines would only dream of, but they're only getting started. Their 2023 annual report is titled To the Top, signifying their quest to achieve and retain the #1 ranking in several big categories, including international capacity, prestigiousness, digital experience, and air cargo capacity. The company's strategic plan has them doubling in size by 2033. That means 800 plus planes, 170 million passengers, and approaching 50 billion in revenue. Much of this growth will come from increasing frequencies on existing routes and flying bigger planes on those routes. But the company also expects to add 50 new destinations, many of them long haul to places like Sydney, Santiago de Chile, and Lima, Peru. But one I didn't see coming was Denver, Colorado. I mean, it makes sense given it's a Star Alliance hub, but Turkish already flies to San Francisco and Los Angeles, two other United hubs with good connectivity to the Western US. We can get into the network strategy later, but I think this route is just as much a Denver story as it is a Turkish Airlines story. Denver International Airport is one of the world's fastest growing airports by seat capacity, jumping from 21st busiest in 2019 to the 6th busiest in 2023. Ironically, it came in just ahead of Istanbul, which is also one of the world's fastest growing airports. DIA's strategic location and abundant land space has made it into a cash cow for United, and they're returning the favor by investing $1 billion to add more gates, more flights, and more destinations. In June of this year, Denver inaugurated its longest nonstop flight ever.
A new airline that will soon host its longest nonstop flight from Denver.
A 6,100-mile trek blocked at 11 hours and 45 minutes, just narrowly beating out United's 5,800-mile flight to Tokyo. The new crown would, of course, go to Turkish Airlines, and arguably the swankiest airplane in their entire fleet, the A350 equipped with Aeroflot interiors. Now, normally these inaugural flights are a feeding frenzy for press and trip reporters, but it has been radio silence on this flight so far. I literally could not find a single review, written or filmed, on the internet, plus I got a deal I could not pass up. So let's give this thing a go and see if Denver's longest flight is also Denver's best flight. Welcome to Turkish Airlines Flight 202.
Turkish 1 Victor Kilo Heavy, runway 34 left, clear for takeoff.
All right, saying goodbye to the Tundra, or the Tacoma, that served us well over the past 3 days here in Denver. It's been real. Let's go. All right, made it to the West Terminal here. Just gotta find the Turkish Airlines check-in desk. So you can see the sign. They added the sign recently. They don't have the they don't have a backlight yet on the Turkish and Breeze, just hanging out there on the bottom. Hopefully this route stays so we can get a proper backlit sign for Turkish at Terminal West. But let's get inside and get checked in. At this point, the excitement was certainly building, not just for the flight, but for another long-haul journey with my mom, who's probably the only person crazy enough to fly 2 hours west from Ohio just to take an 11-hour flight to Istanbul with me. We headed all the way down to check-in area 6, past Delta and Lufthansa, and found a very mild queue for both business and economy. The red carpet was a nice touch, but it didn't provide much benefit for us today, as we probably would have had the same wait in either line. Hey, how are you? Good, thanks.
No, I think.
Yes. And just one check-in bag. While my bag was getting tagged, the curiosity got the best of me, so I had to ask. How full is the flight today?
Pretty full, but we do have
Okay. You work for Turkish, or you work for like the airport? Or,
Right now, I'm just working for Turkish because I just got the training for that.
Gotcha.
This is basically my first day.
Oh, really?
Oh, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Thank you. There you go. So 8:05 is your seat, 5:08, 6:45 is the boarding time, and this is your gate.
Perfect. Thanks so much, and we got one more for you.
And then there's not any hazardous material.
Nope, no batteries or anything. Nope.
And also, do you have any medication that you might need during the flight?
I don't
Nope.
know.
But that's a good question. I'm a doctor. It's so interesting. I would think that more people, when they're on a long haul flight like that, you just want to double check that everyone has their meds.
Exactly.
What's the definition of a long haul flight? Is that a certain number,
I have
of
no idea.
hours?
Actually, not a bad question, and I don't think there's a single answer. But from the passenger perspective, IATA defines it as 6 hours or more. Appreciate the help. Yeah.
Thank you for being patient.
Oh no, it was great. All right, have a good one. Security this way. We'll find out. All right, check-in is done. We were the only people. Well, I guess we waited for maybe 2 parties ahead of us, but otherwise the only people in line for business class. So pretty easy. Our agent that checked us in it was her first day on the job. Respectable job for the first go at it, and off security. So in Denver, everyone goes through security first in the main terminal, then you take an underground train to one of 3 concourses, A, B, or C. This layout used to be a nightmare for travelers, but Denver recently opened up a new 17-lane ultra-modern checkpoint earlier this year, and it did not disappoint. That was potentially the quickest security experience we've ever had. I mean, there was literally no one in front of us. Now, of course, it did help that we were pre-check, but even if you don't have pre-check, the lines will likely move faster as you don't have to take out electronics or liquids like you used to.
Doors are closing. Please keep clear and hold on.
This is Denver's Automated Guideway Transit System, or AGTS, and it's one of the best parts of traveling through DIA in my opinion. It sort of feels like you're traveling at the speed of light, even though you're really only going like 20 or 30 miles per hour. They run every 1.5 minutes, and the journey from security to the A gates takes about 3 minutes. By the time we reached the departures level, it was nearing 6 p.m., so we had 45 minutes to check out the new-ish United Club before boarding. Notably, Denver is the only United hub without a Polaris business class lounge, but that will apparently be changing soon. In the meantime, this regular United Club checks pretty much all the boxes you'd expect from a modern business class lounge, and it's arguably better than some of the Turkish Airlines outstation lounges you'd find in Dulles, Miami, and New York. The gates to the club were automated, but we were still greeted by name. Oh, nice. Thank you. A nice touch and reflective of United's quest to become the new Delta in terms of hospitality and service. Upon entry, it was very clear United put a lot of thought and effort into the design of this place. It's 24,000 square feet and seats up to 400 guests, yet somehow it still manages to feel cozy. They've got a real ski lodge aesthetic going on in here, with a fireplace, cushy leather chairs, and of course, walls built out of logs. There are 2 levels, 2 buffets, 2 bars, and enough power ports to run a small Bitcoin mining operation. We didn't have a ton of time, so I quickly observed some of the local art fixtures, grabbed a couple bits and bobs from the buffet, and then we were out of there. Thank you. The walk from A25 to A45 took a little longer than it should have, as we made a couple pit stops to observe Denver's other long-haul departures this evening. One sleek-looking BA A350 to London, and then a Lufthansa Dash 9 headed to Frankfurt. Waiting at gate A45 was our ride for today, Tango Charlie Lima Golf Lima, a 2.5-year-old A350-900 that first flew in 2022. And this isn't just any old Turkish A350. This one was originally intended for the Russian airline Aeroflot, but deliveries were halted in 2022 due to international sanctions. So the planes effectively became available, and Turkish negotiated a last-minute deal for 6 of the Airbus jets. LGL originally carried a hybrid Turkish Aeroflot livery, but was repainted at the end of 2022. The interior, however, remains in its original Aeroflot configuration, which is a huge upgrade over the typical Turkish seat. Let's get on board and see what it looks like. Yeah. All right, thanks so much. All right, let the journey begin. Yeah, it's just a stub. They just give you a stub back. Did they put it in your passport? Okay. I think we have a separate jet bridge. We'll see though. And indeed we did, so we proceeded to door L1, trying to keep a fairly low profile to respect the crew on this flight, as they preferred I not film any of their faces. And my first reaction was, wow, this looks and feels a lot more like first class than business class. Not only is the seat incredibly private, but the finishings feel very high-end, and we've even got auto blinds on the windows, which is not a standard feature for the A350. More and more airlines these days have engineered a sort of signature vibe, the mood lighting, the music, the smells, to create a multi-dimensional experience that you're more likely to remember. The vibe here was sort of a calm elegance, and Turkish gave us plenty of goodies to stay comfortable on this 11-hour overnight flight. Nice, robust, fluffy pillow here. Then we had multiple blankets, a seat cover for sleeping, some slippers, and headphones. As I was exploring the various bells and whistles on the seat, of which there are many, the crew came around with some welcome drinks. We had a choice between water and a bunch of fruit juices. So this is lemon and raspberry. Orange. I'll try the lemon, please. Thank you. At this point, the gentleman working my aisle introduced himself and said he'd be around if I needed anything during the flight, which sort of goes without saying, but it was a nice touch and made the service feel a bit more polished. As for the lemon drink, it was pretty solid, and I do respect Turkish's attempt to offer something unique and different as a pre-departure beverage, but it would also be nice to have the option of champagne. In general though, I was expecting the food and beverage service to be pretty over the top, and sure enough, I soon spotted the onboard chef walking down the aisle with menus for our flight. The onboard chef just stopped by with a menu and a wine list. And we'll get to all that after takeoff, but for now, let's get a quick word from the flight deck.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain speaking. Welcome aboard. My name is alongside Commander. Captain, be a recommend of today's flight. Our flight time to Istanbul Airport is approximately 10 hours and 55 minutes. After preparations, we plan to start our flight in about 10 minutes. On behalf of Turkish Airlines and the entire crew, I wish you a pleasant flight. Thank you, Captain.
And right around 7:30, we heard this.
Boarding complete.
Meaning we could close the doors and get on our way. Taxi time tonight would be a quick 10 minutes to runway 34 left via Alpha November, Golf, and Whiskey Alpha.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and your children. We are welcome aboard Turkish Airlines flight Istanbul Airport. My name is Captain Chief. We will be pleased to help for the entire flight to each let's fly.
Turkish 1, Victor Kilo Heavy, Denver ground behind the United from your right. Runway 34 left, taxi via Golf, Whiskey Alpha.
After passing United on the right, then continue for runway 34 left via Gore and Whiskey Alpha.
Turkish 1, Victor Kilo, thank you very much. Verify information, Romeo. Turkish 1, Victor Kilo Heavy, monitor tower, please 135.3.
Monitor tower 135.3, today from monitor.
Turkish 1, Victor Kilo Heavy, Denver Tower, runway 34 left, line of await. Turkish 1, Victor Kilo Heavy, runway 34 left, clear for takeoff.
34 left,
And just one quick fun fact as we're beginning our takeoff roll. Denver's runway 34 left is the longest public use runway in North America and the 7th longest on Earth, so we shouldn't have any issues getting off the ground, even with the fairly heavy A350. Shortly after we hit 10,000 feet, the crew sprang into action, first stopping by with hot towels and water bottles. I popped open the tray table in anticipation of a potential tablecloth, but in classic Denver fashion, we encountered some rough air, so the crew were called back to their seats. To pass the time, I perused the movie selection on this giant 21-inch screen and settled upon Quentin Tarantino's most recent film, which I figured would be enough stimulus to keep me awake for the foreseeable future. As an added bonus, these Denon headphones made sure I was fully immersed in all the yelling, screaming, explosions, and gunfire that come with every Tarantino movie. You'll also notice that the crew had installed my little mattress pad / seat cover, which didn't offer a ton of extra padding, but it was a nice cozy texture and provided a clean buffer between me and the seat. And here we are with the tablecloth, as well as the first course, or I guess the appetizer to the appetizer. First up, we got a full bowl of nuts. Got some almonds, cashews, macadamias, nice pistachios. Imagine that. My drink of choice was the Tatanjay champagne, and as you can see, it was quite a generous pour. If you're not a champagne drinker, Turkish offers 3 whites, 5 reds, a rosé, and a port. And if you're in the market for something stronger, you won't have an issue with that either. But one glass of the Tatanjay was going to be plenty for me, as I knew there was a lot of grub to come. Every good meal starts with a good place setting, and no one does it better than Turkish. Before anything comes out, you not only get a fake candle, but also this tray with butter, spices, olive oil, salt and pepper, and a little nest for your bread. Like the bread gets its own little blanket. I would absolutely love to be a piece of bread on Turkish Airlines. You just get so much more respect and reverence than if you just had to sit on the shelf at a grocery store. On the return flight, the bread wasn't even served in a basket. It came in its own little sack. At any rate, the first course was more like a sampling of the various items on the trolley, which I'll list on the screen. The trolley really is such a treat because you get to see the food before you decide on it, and I can't imagine how much time and effort this thing must take to set up. I guess that's why they have the onboard chef. And the fact you have the choice between not 1, not 2, but 9 starters, including the soup, is pretty incredible. If you wanted all 9, you could certainly do that, but I stuck to the tomato mozzarella salad, the beetroot salad, smoked salmon, and tomato soup. Everything was tremendously fresh and it disappeared quite quickly. Thank you.
Enjoy.
Can I get some water as well, please?
Sure. How was your meal? Is everything okay?
Oh, it was delicious. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thanks so much. For the main, I went with the beef, which looked and tasted amazing. The other options were a grilled prawns or rigatoni. And then dessert was also served trolley style, and there were a ton of options.
What did you prefer dessert?
I don't know, I think I'd like to try everything. What is your favorite?
Baklava.
Okay, I'll definitely try that. And then the fruit looks really good too, and
Lemon cheesecake.
yeah, sure.
Okay.
Teşekkür, what's the second word? Teşekkür.
Teşekkürler.
Teşekkürler. I'm such an idiot. It's teşekkürler. So one word. I swear I got better at it by the time our trip was over. In the meantime, this plate was a sight to behold. From left to right, we've got the pistachio lava cake, strawberry ice cream, lemon cheesecake, baklava, and fruit salad. Definitely a lot of food, but the portions are small enough where you can sample everything and not be completely comatose afterwards. After dinner, it was, unsurprisingly, very dark outside, and most people turned in for the evening. Typically, I'd do the same, but at this point, it was already 7 a.m. in Istanbul, and so I figured staying up would help me get adjusted. We'd have about 6 hours until the next meal, so I tried to freshen up a bit, which isn't hard to do when the lavatories are this nice. These particular ones had a bunch of lotions, potions, cologne, fragrances, and a vanity mirror to really expose all those blemishes and zits and whatever facial imperfections you might have. Given I'd be sitting for a while, I also called in the compression socks, which help with blood flow and circulation to the legs and feet. At this point, the crew had noticed that I wasn't going to bed, so while I was in the lavatory, they brought over the cutest little movie theater style popcorn box. I felt really bad that I wasn't hungry for it, but I figured I might be later, so I stashed it away and tried to get into work mode.
There you go. Oh, very good. Enjoy. You're welcome.
Turkish serves pretty much every variety of caffeinated drink, including filter coffee, instant coffee, Turkish coffee, espresso, black tea, green tea, and Coke. So you won't have any issue staying awake. Business class passengers get 1 gigabyte of free Wi-Fi. Then if you exhaust that allowance, you can purchase additional data ranging from $8 to $35. I found the Wi-Fi to be extremely reliable over the entire flight path, but speeds were very average, so something like YouTube would be out of the question. As the sun started to rise over Greenland, my legs definitely needed some movement. I made my way over to one of the galleys, which is pretty bare snack-wise, but I'm sure I could have asked the crew for something more substantial if I wanted it. This side was meant to be an elegant self-serve refreshment area in the Aeroflot configuration, but unfortunately it looks rather sad on today's flight, mostly being used to store extra service items. When I got back to 5 Alpha, it was time to test out the bed mode. Now, I obviously didn't try to sleep, but based on the 5 minutes I was lying flat, I think this is one of the better beds in the skies. Plenty of legroom, both vertical and lateral, ton of privacy since you can close the door, comfy pillow, and multiple blankets with different levels of thickness. Definitely a step above the beds you'll find on Turkish's other A350s and 787s. There are also a seemingly endless amount of storage options in the seat. You've got a little drawer for your shoes, a pretty deep cabinet next to the headrest, a water bottle holder, literature pocket, and a personal closet. I also use the footwell to store the pillow and my laptop at various points.
Would you like some juice or water, sir?
I'll just do water, please.
Alright, enjoy.
Thank you. Alright, now we're in 50 out, just cruising over Poland. Just got the morning hot towels, and I'm sure they'll be taking actual breakfast orders soon.
Breakfast wasn't quite as formal as an affair as dinner, but it was pretty substantial.
It looks incredible.
First off, we got an appetizer that could have served as the main course on many of the other European carriers. Then the entree was either an omelet or pancakes. The omelet was calling my name, and it got inhaled pretty quickly. And I will say it was nice to actually have some meal spacing and feel hungry for another meal, unlike a quick New York to London flight where you get breakfast like 3 hours after dinner. As we made our way over Bulgaria, I ordered one last drink, the digestive tea, and pretty soon we started our descent towards Istanbul airport.
Dear passengers, as we are descending, make sure that your hand luggage is stowed in the overhead bins or under the seat in front of you. Please fasten your seatbelt, put your seatbelt upright, close your tray table, open your window blind, and stow your footrest. Thank you.
Our approach this afternoon took us north over the Black Sea, then east of the airport as we entered a right downwind for runway 35 right. Making our way to the B gates at Istanbul Airport, let's take a quick moment to recap this 11-hour flight with Turkish. First off, let's talk value. I bought this ticket with ANA miles back in April before the Japanese carrier devalued their program just days later. At the time, they were charging 88,000 miles round trip plus $472. That's the first time I've paid less than 100,000 miles for a round-trip business class ticket, and it felt like an incredibly good deal despite the almost $500 in fuel surcharges. If you assume the flight sells for about $4,000 on average, I got around 4 cents per mile of value, and that's especially good considering I used American Express points for the transfer. And please, I am begging you, do not redeem your Amex points for gift cards. You'll rarely get more than 1 cent per point. That said, it's probably better to spend points and have them sit around, and not everyone likes flying, so I encourage you to do what makes you happy. Okay, so what about the flight itself? I was pretty blown away by the seat, especially since I've never tried the Q Suite or the room. Heck, I've only ever had a door once, and that was on JetBlue. The service was a step above what you'd find on the Western European network carriers. The crew was more attentive, and the meal was more like a culinary experience. Not only is the food itself higher quality, but the presentation and delivery is also highly thoughtful and methodical. This means the meal service also takes a bit longer, but Turkish has the luxury of time on this route, so you can have a 2-hour meal and still have time to sleep if you so choose. There were some things I was disappointed by. For example, the in-flight announcements. Every time the seatbelt sign was switched on, which had to have been 10 plus times during the flight, an automated announcement was played over the loudspeaker.
Dear passengers, please keep your seatbelt fastened and remain seated until the seatbelt sign has been turned off.
While it was certainly a friendly and respectful sounding voice, I heard several passengers express frustration over the fact it was played throughout the night while people were trying to sleep. But overall, one of the better flights I've ever taken. And what a great route for Denver. Not only does it unlock Türkiye for Coloradoans, but also Turkish's 75 destinations across Asia and 55 across Africa. I talked to a few travelers on the flight, none of whom were terminating their journey in Istanbul, which speaks to the power of Turkish's network. And the flight seems to be doing well. Just last week, Turkish announced it would be boosting frequencies next summer to once daily, up from 4 times per week now. Now, whether the route will still be operated by this Ex-Aeroflot A350 is still unclear to me. Our return flight did not feature the new business class, and I can't find any future dates with the new plane on their website. So keep that in mind if you're considering flying this route just for the swank factor. Istanbul Airport, completed in 2019 at a cost of $12 billion, is another topic that I'll cover in a future video because it's one of the more impressive mega hubs that I've ever seen. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed tagging along on TK202, and I wish you the safest and happiest of travels wherever your journeys may take you. So long from Türkiye.
Thank you so much. Have a great one. Alright, no cockpit visit this time, but can't always win, so it's up to them. So it's a really good flight overall. I mean, that was one of the best flights I think I've ever taken. Really solid. Great service, great food, great seat. Checks all the boxes.
And Mom agreed. How was your flight? Was your flight good?
It was awesome.
Thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Very good.